Top of the morning to you, YouTube. It is your buttery voiced host, El Heftismo, and joined by me today, very graciously, a gentleman you may all know, or if you don't, you really should. This is my friend Ben Scrivens, owner and head man over at Fright-Rags.com. It is the place to go get your horror stuff. Ben, how are you, buddy?
Doing great, Hefty, and thank you for having me on here. It's a pleasure to finally talk to you face to face.
Agreed.
I wish we had some hot peppers. We could have gone back and forth.
I got plenty back there. Good. We'll save that for when we actually meet. And,
right.
We'll eat some hot stuff together. You know, I would do a hot ones. I got all sorts of stuff. Wow. Thank you so much for being on, man. I really appreciate that. Taking out some time to answer some questions and stuff.
Sure thing.
Get a couple minutes for people to show up or what have you. And if nobody does in the next couple minutes, we'll just go. We'll go anyway. But that thing that we were talking about a second ago, would you consider that? And we'll get to that a little bit later in the interview. Is would you consider that, in your opinion, to be a collector's item?
Ooh, I guess I would. Although it feels weird to say that because it's putting a value on something that was not right. I guess if that makes sense. And we'll get into it. But
yes, we will, absolutely.
I guess in some ways, yeah, but it feels weird and almost wrong to be like
dirty.
Oh, yeah, like that's a weird thing, you know. We can talk about that more, but like even some of the stuff that we've done in the past, I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent here, so you feel free.
No, go ahead. No, please.
But you're
talking to the king.
You sparked a thought in my head. Like, for example, we put out these Halloween figures last year, the Nano Force. They were Army Men.
Yes.
And, you know, hindsight's 2020, and I can get into why we only had a limited amount, but at the same time, we only had a limited amount at the time. Mm-hmm. And again, there's reasons for that. But I did not know that they would sell in 10 minutes. Nobody knows that. And people are like, you should have made more. Well, give me
you don't foresee that.
And I'll find out the one magic number to make. So, you know, my point is those sold out so quickly, and we did limit it. I think those ones we limited to 2 per person. Yeah, we did. People are selling on eBay for like $150. And when you go to the collectors, and I'm like, I don't want people to spend on that's not, I can't stop that even if we limited it to 1 per person.
Yeah.
But I don't like the idea that someone, I mean, on one hand, it's like, wow, that's crazy that someone's going to spend that much money. And that's cool.
But at the same time, it's like, don't spend that much money.
But I'm like, don't spend $150 on that. Like, please don't. And in fact, we're reissuing those this year as a second edition, flipping the colors so it retains the first edition. So we don't want to screw people over who did get on at 10 in the morning to get it. But also give other people a chance to get it. And there's a clear divide. I mean, the packaging will say it on there. You wouldn't be able to pass this off as the original, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And we're doing a lot more pre-order type things where we, you know, do it by time and not by certain number. Sometimes certain number you just have to do, but.
No, I think that's a very smart idea. I know you guys did it with the I saw the Night of the Living Dead figures that are coming out. That's really cool.
Thanks, man.
That's really cool. I love that you guys are delving into all of these different because it started out with just shirts. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And then you moved on to, you know, I remember getting my first pair of like sleepy pants off you guys, and it was like the Evil Dead ones, and I'm like, oh man, these are comfy. They had pockets and everything, and I'm like, It's just absolutely phenomenal how far you guys have come as a company. I think you should be very proud of what you've created. And speaking of which, that kind of leads me to my first question is, do you want to kind of give us a history, does not have to be brief, of Fright-Rags? There's a lot of people I know that are familiar with it, but probably don't understand your academic background as well, and where this specific idea came from and how it came to fruition. So if you would please educate us.
Yeah. So, I mean, as a kid, I've always been drawn to art and you know, making my own drawings and things. So like, for example, you know, I grew up loving He-Man, and I would always want to draw my own He-Man characters. In fact, I used to do that and send them to Mattel to see if they could make them as figures. You know?
I have Skeletor right there.
Oh. That's the thing. So, you know, as a kid, I would see things and just like all of us cartoons and stuff, but I would want to make it. It's just like so many other kids, you know? And so as I got older, I thought I would want to be a comic book artist and a filmmaker and anything having to do with like art stuff. And I ended up going to college I was going to be an illustrator, and then I switched to film, and I dropped out after a year, and I worked for a couple of years, and then I decided I really want to go back to school because I fell in love with graphic design. I fell in love with this idea that you can take words and images and composite them in a way to make it, everything's graphic design, looking at a cereal box, looking at anything. And when you start kind of dismantling it and seeing why these things work and why that doesn't work, it just was very exciting to me. So I went back to get my 4-year degree in graphic design. In the meantime, obviously being a horror fan, I've been a horror fan since I was 4,
Same.
So, I mean, in fact, I'm actually wearing, Halloween is the first movie I ever saw as a kid. And we did this as a tribute to the first time it was ever on TV, and that was 1981. So growing up in parallel, I was always a horror fan. And weirdly enough, I was always attracted to weird shirts. And in a way where, like, if we went on a family vacation, I would always be like, no, not that shirt, that shirt. And I didn't know if I could ever articulate it, but I knew what I wanted. Even with hats and stuff, I was like, I had this one goofy hat that I bought because it was like a silhouette and it had him playing baseball, but it was a silhouette. It wasn't so like goofy and garish and stuff. I don't know. There's just certain things that spoke to me, but I couldn't articulate it. So I always was particular in that way. So right around 2002, 2003, I was a part of, I had a job. I just graduated college. I should have graduated 4 years before that, but
it's life.
I ended up going back to school when I should have been graduated. And I got a job at a small laptop bag company here in town in Rochester, New York. And I was the third person hired in that whole company. It was the owner, the general, the office manager, general manager, and me.
Wow.
And I was in charge of designing for the website and the print collateral and taking the product photography. So it was cool because I got to see a lot of things in business that I normally wouldn't see in a big company.
Okay.
And I got to do a lot of different things, And so having that sort of creative, like, drive, passion, or whatever, I had a lot of time in my hands. My girlfriend at the time was not my wife. We just moved into an apartment. We didn't have kids yet. We weren't married yet. And so I was on these forums. This is way before Facebook and MySpace even and all that. So I would be on part of all these forums that just horror fans. And one of them was Night Owl Forums.
I remember Night Owl.
Yes. So Justin Mabry, for those of you who don't know, went on to form Trick or Treat Studios. But back in the day, he had a website called Night Owl Forums, and he still does, but he's made the best Michael Myers masks, he had a Part 7 hockey mask that he screen used that he would make and stuff. So we became really good friends, and I loved this idea of this community making Freddy gloves and hockey masks and these masks for all these other characters. And I thought, what can I do? Like, I want to do something. I got to do something. And I started coming up with ideas. And anyway, and I know this is long-winded, but
no, please take your time.
Came up with this concept. The first thing I ever came up with was what would Jason do? And that was a play on, obviously, what would Jesus do, which was a lot more popular at the time.
I remember that shirt. I remember that shirt.
So it was like I came and I took the hockey mask and made a really basic version of the Part 6 mask. I think I took a photo and I manipulated it, made it black and white. And it was really simple, WW hockey mask D. And for me personally, it struck a balance between humor and horror. And when I had looked online first of all, I couldn't find that idea anywhere online. So I'm like, no one ever think of this? Like, what is this? Nowhere.
If they have, they haven't done it yet. So
well, yeah, I searched Google and everything. So, and then I looked for other horror shirts because I really didn't own any horror shirts at the time. I owned all these other types of shirts, but I didn't own any horror shirts. And I found the only one I could really find that wasn't just typical promotional stuff was Rotten Cotton. And Sean Lewis and I'm like, you know what, I didn't not like his stuff, but it wasn't what I wanted it to do. I thought, well, I think I want to do something different than that,
Sure.
There were no other options out there, so I put together this what would Jason do, and then I took the hockey mask and just blew it up and put it on the shirt as an idea, and then I made this really simple one of Michael Myers that I put Trick or Treat underneath it, like real original. And I showed Justin, and he's like, dude, you should put these on my website. And I didn't want to spam his forum, that's
Sure.
a dick move. And he's like, no, man, I'll put them up for you. I'm like, thanks, dude. So he put him up. He's like, hey, my friend Ben. And I was already part of the forum, so people knew me. But
right. That's
he's
pretty
like,
cool,
hey,
though.
here, would you guys like these as shirts? And that was really the first time I got feedback on something I did. And a bunch of comments were like, I would totally buy that. And I was like, I mean, okay. So I did some research. How can I get these printed? And I ended up spending way more money than I should have. I remember being at work and I was like hovering over the buy now button because I was ordering them online. It was 60 shirts for $600, which is ridiculous, especially one color print.
Yeah.
And I did it, told my wife, she's like, what are you doing? Like, how are we ever going to pay that back? I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know. And I came up with a name and coded my own website and plugged in PayPal and stuff and started taking orders in September 2003. And, it's, from there, it was just one of those things where I just kept focusing on it.
So this has really been a labor of love for you this whole time.
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember
it shows. It absolutely shows.
Yeah. I was going to say a couple months after I started, I met with an accountant that my sister had introduced me to just to talk about, because it's business stuff. And he's like, he started talking about turning a profit. And I was like, what do you even mean? I'm not even trying to make money off of this thing. So it was like, it was never really about trying to make money at the time,
No, absolutely. But that must have been a very nice addition, being able to supplement your income. We have a couple people in here. So Rob actually brings up a good point. I love the presents you get when you buy Mercy from merch probably. Yeah, the sausage fingers, I'm guessing. The horror cards, random candies. It's a great idea. I am inclined to agree. Let's see. Jeff is he loves you.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jeff.
Say your check is in the mail, Jeff. Thank you. I know Matt is watching in the background. But here we have Nuff from Main Event Pong, who thinks Fright-Rags is about 30% of his wardrobe right now. I feel you, Nuff. I have literally, we were talking about this earlier, but I probably have 90 plus shirts and sweatshirts and prints,
awesome
stuff from you guys. We got Tom and Amy in here. How are you guys doing? Yeah, so if you guys have any questions for Ben, please, ask them in the comments. Ben, you can read them actually if you click on the little comment doodle on the side there.
Okay, yeah, I see it
so
now.
You can see all that there. Okay. Make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's actually really cool. And so from there, where did you go? How did you go about building a whole family, so to speak, out of this?
So, from there, it was really, at the time, I was everything. I was the designer. The only thing I didn't do really ever was print my own t-shirts. And I made that decision early on. I had an apartment, first of all. I couldn't really get all this equipment. And I also said, what do I want to do? Do I want to print t-shirts or do I want to sell t-shirts? And ultimately, I wanted to sell shirts and design them as well. And as I went along, it was really just something to take up this time that I had. And, it's funny when people kind of look at us now and I hear wonderful compliments about, where we're at now and things. And it's great. And I don't think people realize, it takes 5 years to become an overnight success, and, every night, in my computer in my room downstairs when we finally moved into our house and early mornings, packing orders or writing emails and spending my lunch breaks at my job in line at the post office to hand filling out international forms. And, because I just wanted to connect with people. And so I would listen, and it wasn't like it was immediately a success. I would get all these, a few orders in the beginning, and then it was kind of like
a very slow burn.
Yeah, and there would be times, especially as we moved into our first house or we had our first kid, I was like, maybe I should give this up because, I haven't had an order in 2 weeks. What am I doing? What am I really doing? And all of a sudden, I'd get an order out of nowhere. And I think, God, that person at that moment saw something I did, sent money to me because they wanted what I had. And I was just like, that is, and it still kind of blows my mind today. It really does, truthfully. It's an amazing thing. So you feed off that. And so early on, I actually in 2005, so a couple years after I started working with some other designers because I got away from where I could really focus on the artwork. And honestly, I wasn't as good as so many other people we work with. Not nearly as good as the people we work with today. And I actually got orders from Hot Topic in the end of 2005. And it was really kind of great. At the time, it was incredibly frightening, and I can go into that because of the fact that you have to do everything on your own and print and fold and put them into certain boxes and stuff. That's a whole other story. But for the year of end of 2005, 2006, I thought I had made it because Hot Topic had ordered what would Jason? They ordered like 8,000 of those things, and it was like crazy, right? And then literally almost to the day, my first order came November 1st, 2005. My last order was in October. On Halloween, I wrote Hot Topic, the buyer, and I'm like, how are the shirts doing? Because they just ordered Obey and Wolfman's Got Nards. They're like, they're horrible sellers. We're going to get out of the horror shirt business, blah, blah, blah. And at that moment, what had happened was I started realizing I can't rely on that kind of business. I need to rely on myself and the customers that I build. And around the same time, I was looking for another job because I was getting kind of bored where I was. And so my focus was split. I was trying to work on Fright-Rags, but I was building my portfolio and trying to get another graphic design job. And I was driving home in the wonderful upstate New York winters that we have.
Yes.
Stuck in traffic for like an hour and a half going nowhere. And I was talking to myself, and I was like, I got to work on this portfolio. I got to work on these new shirt designs. I said, you know what? If I woke up tomorrow making the same salary I'm making right now, but I either had Fright-Rags to do or I had another job, what would I pick? Because at the time, I did not pay myself for 5 years in Fright-Rags. All that money went right back in the business. I never took from it. So it wasn't even extra income for me. It never fueled my own personal wealth, if you will.
Gain, yeah, correct.
So at that moment, because I took money off the table, because at the time I could never thought of making this a living. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I said, and because at the time I was probably, I was probably pulling, I don't even remember. I could probably say like a few $100, maybe $1,000 a month, in terms of revenue. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't a ton. Certainly not enough to live by. So basically I took the money off the table and went, no. Immediately my mind went to Fright-Rags. And I said, then that's it. And I got home, I trashed my portfolio thing. I said, screw it. I'm not looking for another job. I'm going to focus solely on Fright-Rags. And I just kept, whatever it was, making a new design or writing emails or whatever it was, just constantly focusing on it. And it wasn't until a few years later that my friend asked me, he's like, don't you think you can quit now? I said, I don't know what that looks like. I have no idea. So at the time, and I just had my first child.
Yeah.
That's scary. And what happened was I said, you know what, let me try something. And I found an online savings account that was giving 5% interest, which is insane now. Now they get like 0.02 interest. I opened up this account and I said, I'm going to pull out automatically the same amount of money I make at my job every week from my Fright-Rags account. I'll have it sent over to that and not even think about it. I'm just not even going to look at it. And I just set it. It was like August of 2007 I did that. And I'm like, if I start getting into money problems with Fright-Rags where I can't pay for shirts or can't do this,
no,
I can't do it.
Yeah.
And 5-6 months went by. I was fine. And then I saw an opportunity open up as a part-time designer. It was a lower, sort of an entry-level position, but I was like, I don't care. I'll take it for like 20 hours a week, 15 hours a week, because it was at a firm I really liked. And I ended up getting that job, and I quit my full-time job. And I only worked there for like 3 months because I had to quit because I was so busy with Fright-Rags. But I had 6-8 months of income built up and savings, so I was able to make it work. Uh-oh, are you okay? Everything?
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. Had some technical difficulties. I apologize. And I was like,
no worries. I was like, what happened?
I was like, oh no, it was just the Ben show.
Yeah.
It was the Ben show for a second. Yeah, I apologize about that, Ben. I don't know what the heck happened there.
No worries.
I
was just reading through some of the comments here.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. So please, if you have any, there's some questions in the comments if you'd like to get to any of them. Absolutely. I do again apologize, guys, for the technical difficulties. Yeah. But yeah, so we have, I think Nuffs was first. It was, which kind of ties in with Rob's. It's how do you go about which licenses you choose for new lines, cost and demand. And Rob's was kind of the same, which how do you decide what movies and what scene design from those movies to make into a shirt. So I guess they're kind of along the same line.
Yeah. It's honestly, it comes down to, you know, we all have movies that we want to work on. I mean, there's the obvious ones. And we kind of look from the pile and say, well, the thing is, you have all these movies and it all depends on who owns them. So Universal might own a bunch of these movies. Warner Brothers might own a bunch of these movies, Sony and so on. And then, I mean, nowadays we work with pretty much every major studio for the most part. There's one that we're trying to work with, like Warner Brothers, that we have not been able to work with. Not for lack of trying. So it ends up becoming, well, what else do you have? You know, like Universal, we tacked on, we had to renew our deal at the end of last year, and we've been working with Universal several years now. So we always renew, you know, Halloween 2, Jaws, Halloween 3, you know, the typical ones. But I'm like, wait a minute, can we get the Burbs? Can we get Prince Darkness? Can we get, you know, even Back to the Future? I was like, hey, I love that movie. It's one of my favorites. I know it's not horror, but I want to work.
Doesn't matter.
And then there's, you know, smaller films that we might be like, oh, that looks cool. Who owns that? And sometimes you end up running into a dead end and you can't find the person or the studio. Sometimes they come to us, and we've had opportunities like that. So it usually comes up when things are ready to renew, and we kind of look at the landscape and go, well, can we do this again? Or what else do they have? And honestly, licensing is a whole other beast, and there are titles that we could probably get right now, but are so priced out of where they should be in my mind that I'm like, are you kidding me? Like,
just play the waiting game. Maybe you'll.
Well, studios they change, and this time now they're like, for example, you know, we wanted to renew a certain license last year, and our advance like tripled. And I was like, really? And now it's a title that I wouldn't mind paying the extra money for, but now all of their titles are going to be that. So there's certain titles that I was looking at getting, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to pay that much for it. Are you kidding me? There's no way we can make that worth it.
Can you give us a hint?
Well, we are. I'll just say we are renewing Ghostbusters. We're trying to renew Ghostbusters. But
that was my excited face. Sorry.
The way they are working is basically each title. Like, some companies will allow you to get a catalog of titles, so you can grab 5-10 titles. It's a lot more money up front, but it's a group, right? Sony's been more like not doing that, but each title is like way expensive. At least, again, for what I think. I mean, maybe companies selling into Walmart and Target, and ultimately, I think some of these companies are just trying to like focus on the mass market, and so and not necessarily what we do, like direct to consumer and stuff. And
right,
I don't know. I think that's not a good this isn't just my opinion. I just don't think that's a good long-term strategy. But at the same time, these companies are short-staffed usually, and they need to kind of focus their efforts on probably the largest fish. And I understand that. I'm empathetic to that, because they're like, listen, we can't handle submissions from 30 companies. Maybe we can handle it from 5 because of our workforce. So those 5 need to be the ones selling 100,000 units to Walmart, right? So
yeah, no, absolutely.
I can understand it, but from my perspective, I'm like, yeah, but you're disservicing a huge clientele, and not for anything, but like that's a more solid basis, I think, than trying to just favor the mass market. But that's just me.
No, I agree. I think the way you guys do business is I have no qualms. I just basically, when you guys come out with stuff, I'm like, shut up and take my money. You know. Jeff says he just got the George Romero tribute shirt for his birthday from his best older brother in the world. His favorite Fright-Rags shirt yet. Will you ever do Dawn of the Dead stuff, or have you already? Now, I know the answer to this. Yes.
Yes. We did do. So we had the Dawn license for a few years, and this is another one that, for various reasons, we have been trying to renew for over a year now. It's actually been a year and a half. So we have not had the license for a year and a half, not because we let it go or we wanted to move on or something. We've been trying to renew it.
It's Richard Rubenstein's fault.
Well, he's the one that has to.
I can say that. You know?
Well, the thing is, here's the thing. He's been fine to work with. And he, in the beginning, it was like, it felt like tumbleweeds because of like, hey, it's 2 months out. We got to renew or whatever. Nothing. And then it's like expired. I'm like, we have a sell-off period after something expires. We can still sell merch, just not make new merch.
Correct.
So I'm like, hey, we're in our sell-off period. Finally, we got contact, and it's just, there were some issues last year. I think it sounded like there might have been some health issues. I'm not really sure, but also COVID. So I get it. And to be in his defense, you know, he has not said we're not going to renew. He wants to. It's just been a process. So as of right now, we are still in that process, and I'm really hoping that we can complete it in the next few months so we can continue to do Dawn stuff. Because I want.
Yeah, please let me know on that one.
Yeah,
because I would love to. Again, that's just here you go, buddy.
Yeah.
Nuff says, let's see. Shout out to Michaela and Jessica, my nieces, who are also watching right now. Ones we were speaking of earlier. One thing I've noticed about the Trick or Treat merch across the board. Nobody is making anything with Rhonda. Are they not allowing anyone to use her likeness, or is it a demand thing?
It's likeness. It's all likeness. You know, we had a lot of, when we first got the Trick or Treat license, there were so many ideas we had, and come to find out, we were not able to use anyone's likeness. So when you see Anna Paquin's character as the Little Red Riding Hood, you can do her with her fangs and her eyes and sort of made up a little bit, but you can't do her just as
a one-to-one replication of her features.
And obviously, I'm using that example because there is a moment in the film where she does have sort of like a makeup look. You know, I know, spoiler alert here, but and so like on her lounge pants, you'll see her face, or Principal Wilkins, you know, with his mask. You can, but if it's just him, Stephen Wilkins, you can't use.
Can't do it.
Ewan Baker, right? Is that his name? And so with Rhonda, there's no other opportunity to use her because it's only her face, you know, like, so that's why and that happens with almost every single license we get. I was
going to say, I hate to cut you off, but I seem to recall back and you see it in the background there, the Necronomicon. I was lucky enough to get one of those bad boys. That was a fiasco a little bit. In specific, only I believe there was only one itty bitty problem with it, and it was the one particular shirt, correct?
Yeah, so that was a huge lesson, and that was a trial by fire, and that was actually, so Evil Dead 2 was...
I didn't mean to hit you with that one either.
No, if you want me to, I can talk about it if you want me to talk about it.
Yeah, I would love to know. Yes, please, if you don't mind, sir.
Basically what happened was, I look at Evil Dead 2 as our first big license, right? We had worked with, I think, Toxic Avenger before that, and in Mars Attacks we did something. But Evil Dead 2 felt to me like a really big deal and a step up from what we've been doing in terms of officially licensed stuff. So we got the license in 2012 or 20. When was that? It was something like that. It doesn't really matter. But anyway, it was the 25th anniversary, right? So that would have been 2013, I guess. I'm just, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. So I'm losing track of time here. But anyway, we got the license. I was super excited. We could use Bruce Campbell's likeness, and I was just so jazzed about it. So we started developing artwork, and we started doing so that Evil Dead 2 box set was plagued. It was cursed.
Yeah, I was waiting patiently until one point, and then I think I got kind of impatient at one point. And I do apologize about. I think I hit you up with like 6 or 7 emails, and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Yeah, so obviously it was partly the manufacturer, and partly the set itself. So basically what ended up happening was we wanted to have this cool wooden Necronomicon set with a latex wrap, and it had 2 shirts in it and a magnet and all the stuff. And I had started. We were trying to hit a certain deadline in terms of release and all that, which was October, and we were teasing it. But again, not knowing enough back in the day, I started teasing things without getting them approved, thinking, well, how is this not going to get approved? Like these, it's not like we like misused his face and his looks like Bruce Campbell, whatever, So basically what happened was two things. We teased the Necronomicon set. Come to find out, there were some copyright issues using the actual Necronomicon that we had to straighten out with Tom Sullivan, which ended up working out fine, but caused some issues. And then we had already teased both T-shirts, but we hadn't gotten them approved yet. They were in approvals. Come to find out, one of them got rejected.
Yeah, which is funny because, in my opinion, from what I recall, that was the fan favorite out of the two.
It was.
They were both extraordinary designs.
It totally was, though. And listen, I do need to preface this, even though it was a decade ago.
Sure.
These things happen. Like, and it is totally within the studio's right and who maybe the person's right, the likeness, whatever, to reject things. That's
absolutely
right. So at the time, unfortunately, people came down on Bruce Campbell for it, which was not a good thing, and that ended up backlashing with us.
I was going to ask if that had any repercussions on you guys. And again, I'm not trying to air any kind of dirty line. I'm not trying to say this person was bad or anything. I'm just interested in the story.
Totally. It definitely was not a fun weekend for me that weekend. It was definitely horrible because I did not want that to happen because, listen, again, lots of things get rejected. We've got a whole folder of rejected designs that I'm personally like, man, these could have been awesome, but it's not up to me. I mean, we can fight for certain things depending on what it is, but if it's just a flat out rejection from someone who needs whatever, then that's their right. That's their contractual right. So
sure, absolutely,
no problem. But it was my fault for having teased it in advance. So then I had to,
kind of do damage control a little bit to an extent. Also,
reduce the set to what it ended up being. It all ended up working out.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
It was a huge lesson on my part to realize what I should and shouldn't be doing publicly facing while other things are happening in the background. So, you just live and you learn. It was definitely one of.
Well, if it makes you feel better, Ben, I bought both damn copies of it right there, buddy.
Oh my God, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, so I got both those. And these are just some of the awesome sets. I don't know if you guys know some of you probably do. They do awesome box sets. I have a Tales from the Crypt one over there that was friggin' awesome. That was a great box set. But so there's the Necronomicon one that came with the. I believe that one was the T-shirt, the magnet. The box, which is an exquisite sculpt. It's freaking phenomenal. The middle one, I'm doing this backwards here. That's a Tarman one. That's one of my favorites. That was the other edition, which was the cardboard box, which I believe had the sweatshirt that I'm currently wearing. Yes. And with the Graham Humphreys design on it. And the Day of the Dead one, which is I'm a huge Day of the Dead, and you can see the print over here. Basically, my room is basically a Fright-Rags commercial.
I can tell. I can already tell. It's awesome.
Thank you. All my videos, just about every video on my channel you watch, I am wearing a Fright-Rags shirt. Awesome. So yeah, I believe in this company. I believe in you guys. I love what you guys are doing. Nuff brought up actually another good point. Actually, there's a couple things I want to get to. Hold on one second. I'm getting ahead of myself. So we'll start at the beginning here. So Nuff asks, can you give a hint when we can expect the EC Comics line? The lounge pants are haunting my dreams. We'll address that one first.
Yeah, so EC Comics is coming up in. I'm actually going to bring this up on my screen because we just went over the release schedule, and I think that one got moved up in schedule, which is good. But that one's coming out. I think is it May? Let me look here. Yes, it's coming out in May.
May. Yeah. That's awesome. That's again, Ben. That's going to be one where you will see my name on the mailing list for that.
Yeah, we've got the lounge pants. We've got 3 T-shirt designs and a hat.
A hat like one of these fine Fright-Rags hats, or one of the pullover ones, which is over on my couch, and I don't want to go grab it. I'd pay more of your merchandise, but so is it one of the baseball caps, or is it one of the? Oh, really?
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I can already hear my bank.
We've actually got. we've got 2 hats that we did, but we're releasing one. Like, again, when we do releases and collections, we try to make it, in our mind at least, make sense. And we had a bunch of stuff for EC Comics, and we've done, as you know, stuff in the past for EC. So it's like, what can we do? What makes sense? And we want to do the lounge pants because we thought those would be rad, right? And then I can talk about it because it's not a big deal. But the shirts that we're doing are mostly logo shirts, but we want to do different colors because I thought, well, Haunt of Fear should go on a blue and Tales of the Crypt should go on a red and make it cool logo and have the Crypt Keeping stuff. So they're very call them like a more staple type design, you know?
Sure.
Because you can't go too far with EC, right? You want to maintain the vintage style. You want to maintain the actual artwork that we love, you know?
Yes.
So it's hard to take it too far out of that realm. And then the hat is going to be a Tales from the Crypt hat, which is going to have the logo and then like a brim looking thing. But then we've got a couple other ideas that we want to save for another collection because sometimes we put too much out at once, it cannibalizes each other.
Sure.
More EC focused, like the EC logo hat and like an EC like comic sort of looking like fan club type of thing, you know?
Oh, that's awesome.
So I don't know when those will be released. Maybe later this year, maybe next year. I'm not really sure yet. But
well, you know, there's an easy way that people can find that out. They can follow you guys at Fright-Rags on Facebook or Instagram, Twitter.
Right.
We'll get to all your pluggings at the end, sir. Right. But I can't push you guys enough. I absolutely love your company. Rob brought up the fact, and I'm going to have to agree with this one too. I'm glad you guys horrorize non-horror movies as well. Christmas Gory and Rudolph Massacre are some of my favorite designs, as well as I know his favorite sweatshirt is the Thanksgiving one with the chud and everybody. That's good stuff. That is where did that come from?
The candle things. So that one, it's so funny. And there's actually a video. If anyone's interested, you can look it up on our channel, our YouTube channel. It's just youtube.com/Fright-Rags. And we did this classic series a few years ago where we brought back old designs. And I told the story about that. But because I want people to see what it originally looked like. But basically, I forgot who came up with it. It was either me and Tansky, Chris Tansky, who's our production manager. We always sit around and have ideas. I mean, all of us do, but he and I always banter back and forth. I can't remember exactly where that came from, but I remember thinking, oh, we should do like a cannibal, all these cannibals are on the table and stuff. So I think it was us that just kind of bantered the idea back and forth, but we gave it to Justin Osborne. And the first thing he came up with us, yeah, he's amazing, is that what you see, but right in the middle, instead of the carcass, was a guy bent over and his bare ass in the air. I was like, all I see is ass. All I see. It was an amazing design, but I'm like, I don't think
that's a lot of ass for
a lot of ass, right? So he did another version, and it was less ass, and I'm like, and then the third version is just the carcass. So it's like,
okay, that's the one.
Yeah. So yeah, I was like, that works for me.
I would love to see the concept design on the original one, though. I think that would be hilarious.
Yeah, well, if you, check it out. I think we show all three on the YouTube, the one, because like it's so, and it's funny because everything remains the same, and you can like click through them, and it's like ass, less, and then carcass, it's like it's being eaten. Yeah, we like doing that stuff. You know, again, it's sometimes, and we don't get it a lot, but sometimes parody or whatever. This company started on a parody design.
Yeah.
So, and even what you're wearing, the G.I. Jason, like things that we think of, if it makes sense in my mind and I can convince somebody else in my company that it makes sense and I'm not crazy, then we got to do it because it's just, why not? Like, have some fun, people. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
You know,
it's super, and I think they're clever. Like my favorite is like the Rudolph shirt, the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer shirt.
Mm-hmm.
I wear that every Christmas, every holiday season since that came out.
Yeah.
And one of the things I also wanted to point out, which I kind of wanted to ask you about earlier, is when we were talking about the screen printing process, is your guys' design is like so comfortable. And this shirt, again, you guys came out with this years ago, like many moons ago. And this wasn't even the first one, I believe. Was this the first one? There was like two of them, I remember.
That's the second one. The first one was the original Jason Part 3. Part 3, 4.
Part 4, yeah.
Yeah, it was Part 4.
Had both of those.
But we did that as, so we think of it as like the pre-zombie Jason, right? So that's original G.I. Joe with the actual flames in the background.
Yeah.
Then you've got sort of in the second generation, third generation GI Joes where you've got the digital looking flames in the background.
Oh no, it's great. But I love the colors. This shirt is very old. I wear it lots, and it's been through the wash numerous times, and it's just fantastic. Now, what is the process of that? Because it's not your conventional one, correct?
You're right. So we are very fortunate. We had, the evolution of our printers through the years. We literally had a guy working out of his garage for the first 5 years, and then we transitioned over to a bigger shop here in Rochester. But they weren't able to. I had to deliver all of the color separations, and back then we were doing very separated color artwork, like a blue here, a red here.
Like the Prowler shirts and designs and stuff like that.
Right, and so it didn't allow us a lot of complexity. Well, then we found another printer that was out of state. They did really good for us. We used them for many years. That one's printed with them. Amazing quality, and they were great to work with. And in the back of my head, I always, to be honest, wanted to keep it local. And I felt a little weird not having it be local. But I could not find a shop that would, do them justice right here in Rochester until I started hearing about the shop called Tiny Fish Printing, shout out. And I was like, what about them? Because they seem to do stuff like we do. And then the owner, Tony, met a girl who works with me, Jess, at her husband was doing this TED Talks thing around here, and he was there promoting stuff. So he's like, tell your boss about Tiny Fish or whatever. So, she gave me this stuff. She's like, hey, you should talk to Tony. I'm like, yeah, I will at some point, but it's just like, there was a lot going on and I just didn't have time. And then I was out, it was like my birthday dinner, my family and my kids and my wife and I were out having dinner, and, there's this little place I like to go to. It's actually in a house. It's called the Owl House. And we were like in an upstairs, small room, and there was one other couple in the room. And this guy kept kind of looking over at me, and he comes over, he goes, you Ben from Fright-Rags? I think I was wearing one of our shirts. And I'm like, yeah. He goes, Tony from Tiny Fish. I'm like, oh, how's it going? So we finally met face to face, and that was 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And we started doing some work with them. And then they just, honestly, they kept getting better and better and better. And really, so the process really is, we don't do a lot of the separations in house. We give it to them because they have literally the best separators, and they're 2 miles down the street from us.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And we work very close. Tony's a really close friend of mine. We talk all the time. I mean, before COVID, we were going out for coffee 2 or 3 times a week to discuss business and stuff. And they're not just like printers. And in fact, they do a lot of fulfillment for us. And a lot of people don't know that. The fulfillment for things like the Halloween Nano Forest, they're going to be doing all the lunch boxes for us. The stuff we don't have the room or the capacity, to get all those in and to ship them all out, we would be down for 2 or 3 weeks. We wouldn't be able to do anything else. They have the room and the capacity, and so we use their team to do it. And my niece actually works there. So
does she really?
Yeah, it honestly, it's like an extended family. It really is. It's not just faceless. And I'm over there, going through, and for stuff like that, I'll walk through the process. This is how we want it packed up. But I know them over there. So it's not just some rando company that we work with.
It's friends. It's neighbors.
Oh yeah. I mean, they've come to my house for birthday parties. It's like a thing. We've hung out, we've done group events, company events together. It's totally an extension. It's not just some random company,
No, that's absolutely fantastic. And I think Nuff's wife would kill me if I didn't get to this one. But she wants to know to do a line for the church or Delamore, also known as Cemetery Man.
We actually did one for that years ago. It was unlicensed. We did a design for it. If I can get the rights to it, I would, but I forget. Was that? Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that Italian? Yeah,
that was. Hold on. That was. He was in Demons. Oh God, what was his name? He played the metal masked guy.
Yeah. Shoot.
Hold on. This is horrible. I have the movie right behind me.
Right, but yeah, it's so things like that.
Shame on me. Shame on both of us right now.
I know, right? It's a confluence of, can we get the rights? How much do people want? Like, how much is it going to cost us? And do we think it's worth it? I mean,
Michelle Soavi.
What's that?
Michelle Soavi. I believe that's who it was.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're
Sorry.
right. No, you're good. So, it's hard because there are times where it's like, okay, we could probably get that title, but does anybody really want it? And we have to pay this much for it. And it's sort of like, I don't know. I mean, you never really know. We've been surprised before, but there's times where I'm like, this is going to hit it, and then it doesn't. And you're like, crap,
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. So actually, that actually would be what are where we go. I'm just going to go out of
my neck
organization here. Yeah, that's kind of a thing. My brother's neck is killing him. That's
yeah. My neck has just been bothering me. I think I slept on it weird last night. Just tight. It's just getting old.
Screw it. Rob beat me to it. So I was going to bring this up later.
Excellent.
But so here we go. So I want you to sign both of my copies.
Okay.
I know you weren't in the first one, but I will send them out to you if you would mind signing them. Would you like to tell us a little bit about? Actually, may I tell my side of this first, real quick?
Please, absolutely. I want to hear it. Yeah.
So back in the day, there were these when the pirating sites were a little more accessible, or there was a lot more of them before they started to get taken down, before the internet started to get, and the studio started to get like, hey, there's these guys doing this. There was a site called Grab and Go Video, and it had, the pictures of the movies too on it, so it was really cool. It wasn't just a title and stuff. So you're like, okay, so I came across Terror at Bloodfart Lake. Now that's right up my alley. I'm like, that's one of those movies that if you go to watch it, right, and you come out disappointed, that's on you, dude. Like, you knew what that was called. So I was like, okay, I got to check this out on Title alone. I watch it, and I'm like, hey, this is a Fright-Rags commercial. And then the guy comes on, I'm like, that's not Ben, but his name is Ben, and he owns a company called Fright-Rags. And then, so I watched that, and I was like, holy shit. And then, of course, you were subsequently in the sequel. How did that happen?
So going kind of way back to where, Fright-Rags all started in 2003, early on, I would say within probably the first 3-4 months of me starting this business, I got an email from this woman, Lauren, and she's like, hey, my husband makes these movies. We live in Rochester, and we just found out about your site, and you guys do great stuff, and we should meet at some point or whatever. And I was like, wow. And again, Rochester is not LA. It's not New York City. It's not. So, especially in the early days, getting an order from anybody or getting contact from anybody right here in Rochester was so crazy to me. Like, yeah, I understand someone from maybe Los Angeles ordering from us, or again, the bigger cities, but Rochester finding out about me, like, that's crazy. So we, talked back and forth a little bit, and she had shown me his site, Low Budget Pictures, Chris's site. Mm-hmm. And I got on there. I was like, what is this? Like, this is bonkers. And so after, I don't know, we didn't talk, I don't think, very regularly for a while. But anyway, a few years had passed, and we, I think, finally met each other in person at a Monster Mania convention, of all things. We're not even in Rochester. It had to go all the way to New Jersey to meet.
That's the way these things happen.
And, we ended up striking up a friendship, and he had introduced me to Christy, who used to work for us, and his friend Travis. And basically, we would kind of start hanging out a little bit and, going to movies or something. And I saw Trick or Treat at his house for the first time when it first came out.
At Seaver's house?
At Seaver's house, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It was cool. He had a party, and it was at Seaver's house, or it might have been Travis's apartment, but it was Seaver and Travis and me and Christy and a few other people. We all got together and watched it for the first time. We were all like, this is incredible,
Yes, it's a very good
so
movie.
It was, summer of whatever it was. I can't remember. He's like, hey, I have a question for you. I'm like, yeah. He was like, I don't want to make this movie, and I want it to be with Ben from Fright-Rags, and he's going into the woods to come up with some horror shirt ideas. And I'm like, he goes, would you be cool with that? And I'm like, yeah, I don't care. That sounds like fun, do it. And he's like, and I even gave him a bunch of our old T-shirts and stuff,
I know, I saw that. I was just like, man, this is like, Hambone's wearing the Chud shirt. You got the,
Yeah, we just had a whole bunch of different ones. I'm like, here, take them. So they put the movie together, and of course it was completely ridiculous in the best possible way.
It's so great.
And then, a couple years later, he's like, hey, I'm doing a sequel. Would you want to be the first person to get killed, and you know, Ben will be. Why am I blanking on the guy who plays me? Why am I blanking on his name? It's like
I can't recall his name either, but it was
horrible.
funny how close you guys resembled each other.
Well, he is so amazing.
But then again, you and I have the same hairline,
right.
So like we're all family here, bud. We're
right.
in the safe spot.
So we filmed it in Lauren's, I think, family's cottage on Canandaigua Lake, and it was for one day, and it was so much fun because I had to, like, you know, get stabbed by an ear of corn, and he had to help me, and it was so great. Like,
my favorite part was like your rant that you go on about, like, hey, my brother's got an idea for a shirt, and I wondered how much, and I know it's all fun and games, but how much of that was like actual like things that went into your dialogue, and you were like, you know what, I'm going to take this kind of to a little bit next level, but this actually happened. I'm
trying to remember how it went down. I feel like it was mostly Chris's words and Chris's scene, right? I don't remember. I don't quite remember ad-libbing. If I did, it might have been because we might have done a couple takes where I might have done some ad-libbing. It's weird because I don't quite remember exactly, but I would probably err on the side that most of it was him. It's funny because it always sticks out in my head for some reason, especially for the first one. He makes a joke in it like, why is someone going to want to do another Evil Dead shirt or something? I forgot how it went. And it stuck with me because I'm like, in some ways, you're right. But then I'm like, man, but what are you trying to say? We do Evil Dead all the time. So what are you trying to say? So it was funny. Chris is such a great dude. He's such a great person. Like, his movies are so crazy, and they're obviously indicative of his humor and of who he is, but you almost wouldn't know it when you meet him. You know, like if you watched one of his movies and then you met him in person, you'd be like, oh, you're nothing like. Well, I think that's kind of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They always, people always figure Tobe Hooper was some kind of maniacal dude for making this movie. It's just a very, deep voiced guy drank. Or Gunnar Hansen was the sweetest.
Or Gunnar Hansen,
and he was Leatherface, Like,
I heard he was a sweetheart. I heard he was an absolute sweetheart.
He was the nicest. And same, Chris, it's like, he's goofy and whatever, but you wouldn't necessarily think that was the guy that made,
Terror Blood for or Ape
Teenage, and then
he's had a bunch that were actually on I want to say on Prime.
Oh yeah,
Amazon Prime or because there were like some shorter ones, and they all had Leo DeChampa in it because Leo was my favorite. Real quick, I had a question. Did you get to meet Jessie Ames?
Oh yeah,
what is she like? Because she was such a quirky character.
Oh no, she was great. Like, she was great. Like, everyone was so much fun to hang out with. Like, I just remember hanging out for the day, and we met at Seaver's house because we had to drive to Canandaigua. I just drove myself, but we met there, and we went there, and they had like food and stuff, and we shot like my scene, and we just kind of hung out for a while, and then I had to get back, and everyone was cool. Like, I've never really spent a ton of time with all of them a lot, like a few different people here and there, like oh God, and I feel horrible. I feel really bad about this.
It's been a while. We're old, Ben. It's okay, buddy.
There was two of the guys we hung out with. We went to go see the Rambo Last Blood together, when they were in town, and because they were hanging out with Seaver, and we all went together one afternoon, and but I don't. I mean, I don't even get to hang out with Seaver that much on my own, just he and I. But like, usually the person I see the most, which I think. I don't know if Sean's been in any of his movies, maybe, but Sean Jordan is a good friend of mine, so he'll come into town and we'll hang out sometimes. But. No Josh Swear. No, I think he was with us during going to see Rambo, actually. Yeah, he is an entertaining gentleman. And just a great couple movies. I ended up buying it on the movie subsequent to that and paid a lot of money for it, which I was kind of upset about. I was like, you know what? I don't care. I have this now. It is actually out of all the movies I have, it is the most loaned out movie that I own. Yeah. So that's really cool. Like I said, I'm going to get that out to you because I would really like to have your signature on both of those. Sure, even though the first one you weren't in, right? I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, that's Ben to me.
Let's see what else we got here. You got time for a couple more questions?
Sure, man, go for it.
Super. So let's see. Speaking of conventions, who is one of your favorite people, your most favorite people, Tom Atkins aside, because we all know Tom Atkins is awesome. Besides Tom Atkins, who is one of your favorite people you've ever met at a convention? And it doesn't just have to be a celebrity; it can be a fan or something like that. Anybody that particularly sticks out in your brain is.
Man, that's a tough one. I mean, I've been really lucky to meet so many great people. Obviously, celebrities have been great to meet. As most people know, at conventions, celebrities are just awesome. You know, everyone at a horror convention is usually pretty awesome for the most part. Obviously, there's horror stories and other people. And meeting anybody who's a fan of our brand is incredible. Like, it really legitimately is. I feel like they're famous to me. Like, for example, we took everybody out to Halloween convention in Pasadena in 2018. So it was the 40th anniversary of Halloween. They were doing a Halloween convention. Of course, we wanted to be a part of it. And I said, screw it. I'm bringing everybody from the team together. We're all going to go. We're going to make a weekend out of it. We're renting a house. We're going to do all the tours. Because a lot of my team had never been out there. I'd been out there a few times. I'd seen all that stuff, but I wanted everybody on my team to experience it. And so the convention itself, big hall and everything, we were a big booth right as you first walk in, and we were getting ready for the show to start, and people start coming in, and we were taking shifts because there was, like 10 of us or whatever. So it was me and Kimmy and her husband Pete taking the first shift.
She's a sweetheart.
Oh, Kimmy's the best.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart.
We're kind of like getting stuff ready, and I look up and I see some people, and I'm like, damn, like, who's over there? Like, there's a line forming. What celebrities over there, right? And I'm looking like, oh shit, that's for us. There was a line of like 100 people, no joke, for us, and it never ended. And I was like, and like pretty much all weekend it was almost that deep. It was insane. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but I got
not at all.
Like Sonia Matichesik. I'm gonna butcher her last name. She's like literally one of our biggest customers ever. Like, it's amazing, the incredible amount of stuff that she orders. I can't even believe it. Like, I'm like, are you kidding me? But she was there because she lives in California. So I was like, we were all excited. We want to get a picture with her, and it was just so awesome. But getting back to your question, and so meeting people that just know us and want to meet us, like, we get people like, can I get a picture with you guys? I'm like, yeah. Like,
yes, absolutely. You sure can. Sure. Why? But okay.
One of our customers, he wanted me to sign his Michael Myers mask. And I was like, dude. And I mean, he had John Carpenter and Nick Castle. And I'm like, let me sign under the hair. Like, I can't ruin your mask, But he was so awesome about it.
But he knows how much Michael Myers means to you. And that was the dream license you guys got when you got that.
100%. And that meant an incredible amount to me, because I didn't, why would anybody want that, for me? But honestly, like, I've gotten to meet pretty much anybody I've ever really wanted to meet. You know what I mean? Like, it's had the opportunity. I will say the one memory that sticks out to me in terms of people, probably George Romero. Really, it was the opportunity. I don't know if did I ever share the story with you or not? Or I was
No, not at all. No.
So what I will say is, so we met his convention manager back in probably the first show I ever did, and he's like, listen, I want you to do some shirts for some people that I manage. I'm like, yeah, cool, let's work it out. And one of them was Charles Cyphers, so that's cool. Sheriff Brackett, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
Pre-Halloween license, right? So this is like 2005, right? I'm like, this is awesome. And he's like, well, I also manage George Romero. And I'm like, what now? Right? So we worked with Monk One to do this really cool shirt. Exactly. George, it was Godfather of the Living Dead, and he was like a zombie, right? And we did that shirt for him. We did a few other ones. And so it was a couple years later at a convention, and Romero was there. It was Monster Mania. And I was in the lobby, and it was Justin Mabry from Trick or Treat Studios. We're hanging out with a few other friends, and I get a call from his manager, and he's like, hey, come up to George's room. I want you to meet him. And I was like,
go up to his room.
Yeah. And so this is back in the day, the heyday of when there was a lot of private parties going on and if you got the invite or whatever, So this was, of course, George had a suite, and Justin and I go up there and knock on the door, and the guy kind of opens, and I'm like, I was told to meet Chris here, to meet George, and he's like, oh yeah, come on in, and it was hopping. And so these suites are like this big room. It's got a dining area over here, a living room area here, and the bedrooms are off to the side, like in other rooms. And it's like packed with people. The bathroom, the whole tub is full of beer, like just beer.
Oh, man.
Richard Brooker, Ashley Lawrence, Judah Friedlander, everyone from the Monster Squad, Joe Pilato. I mean, Doug Bradley,
oh my God.
And just a bunch of people, like me, just like hanging out, like just fans, right? And I'm like, what the hell, right?
Holy mackerel.
Like May of 2006, right? So anyway, I see Chris, his manager, across the room, and he's like, come here. And now, mind you, in the corner where this dining room table was, just packed with people over here.
Oh, sure.
And he's like, come here. I'm like, what? And I see George. I could see the top of his head in the corner, but he's like surrounded. I'm like, dude, he's busy. I'm not, gonna mess with him.
Trying to, yeah.
He's like, no, come on. And he like parts the sea, of people. And we get up there, and here's George sitting in the corner with a cigarette and a scotch in the actual corner. And he's like, George, this is the guy that's doing your T-shirts. And George looks up at me. He goes like this, and he like does this like bow. And I go, fuck you, man.
Yeah, dude. Like, no, you don't get to do that to me.
Yeah, exactly. So, it was so funny. So basically, he's like, pull up a seat. Now, mind you, I'm not kidding you. There is like 2 square feet of carpet in front of his feet, and everything is just full. So Justin and I like crouched down. Oh, sorry, this.
No, you're fine.
There's a picture. I don't have it easily accessible. There's a picture of this. Someone took over our shoulder where Justin and I look like this, and George is right there, and you can see how cramped it is.
And he was a big guy.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Yeah.
And it was like 2 hours of just him talking, telling stories. And we were at his feet. Like I could rest my chin on his knee. Right. That's how close I was. And meanwhile, and I saw Jeff put Pilato there. It's so funny. Joe Pilato is in the corner. He is rest in peace, of course. He is sticking his tongue down some girl's throat. Like it is. I'm like, he is like, and meanwhile, somebody like Richard Brooker, again, God rest, I love that man.
He was my favorite Jason.
He stood up, he's like, turn the music down. I'm like, oh my God, Jason's telling someone to turn the music down. We got Captain Rhodes like trying to like.
Doug Bradley's just sitting there like,
yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, and I'm like, what is happening in my life? But those couple, and then the party ended up getting broken up by security like 3 times.
Boo.
But it was and here's the thing about George, older man, he was at that time, at least, and it had to have been still in the 60s, right? 2006.
Oh yeah.
He passed away 10 years later. So yeah. Right. He signed autographs all day. He never left the table. He would not leave until the line was done. So even at the cutoff time, he'd still stay. He'd be up early the next day to sign autographs and talk to people. He didn't stop. And yet here, all these people are in his hotel room at 2 a.m, partying. And I was tired. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was like, the poor guy probably just wants to go to bed. But that's one of the things that he always seemed, I never had the chance to meet him. Mm-hmm. But him and Savini have been idols of mine for as long as I can remember.
Yeah. And
anything I've ever seen George in, he has just been like the most accommodating and just very humble and amazingly sweetheart of a human being that you could ever meet.
Everything you've heard was true. Like, and it's funny when we were talking and kind of telling stories, and he was telling stories. Some guy had mentioned he asked him a question. You could tell he was trying to like be real, I don't know, technical about things, like as if he like knew more. He's like, so the music you chose for Night of the Living Dead with the diminutive, scales and all these things, was that a creative choice, whatever? And George just
laughed.
He goes, what the fuck is this guy talking about? No, it was free music. Like there was no
Yeah, it was
creative.
library music. Yeah, it's like, dude, what are you talking about? And I was like, no, it was free.
So
It was
funny.
cheap. You know.
And I mean, again, Justin and I are sitting here going, I don't, I have nothing to add here. I'm just soaking this in so I can never forget this moment.
Oh man,
we actually. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say that's phenomenal, man. I want to hear more. Go on. What were you about to say?
What I was going to say is we back when he passed away, he lived in Toronto for the remaining years of his life, and so that's only 3 hours away from here. Across the bridge, a few hours away. And Jess, who works with me, huge Romero fan, and obviously me and everybody we work with it. But they were going to have a wake for him for fans. And Jess is like, I want to go. I'm like, yeah, I want to go. So me and her and Tansky decided to drive up. I drove us up that day, and I didn't know what to expect. It's supposed to be for fans. I figured it's going to be a vigil that a bunch of people are going to gather around and just, in a parking lot somewhere of the whatever, and just talk about Romero, and maybe someone will speak or something. I didn't know. And weirdly enough, I'm like, I don't know what shirt to wear. Like I have my Godfather Living Dead shirt, but he's a zombie. Does that look weird? Like,
is that bad taste?
I don't want to be a dick, but I'm like, but I mean, I think he probably would have liked it, like, so I wore it, so we got there about 10 minutes early and we pulled up and there weren't a lot of people. It was a funeral home. It was an actual funeral home. And so we got there and we got out of the car and we're kind of milling around. There was a few people there, and then it was like 10 minutes before they were supposed to have it, whatever it was supposed to be. And people were kind of going inside, but there was two sets of doors. And we walked in and there was like a small line. And we were like the first people in line, right? And there was like maybe 10 people behind us. Then Greg Nicotero walked in. So
stop it.
I'm serious. And we're all kind of talking. I recognized, oh my God, why am I blanking again? Mike Felcher, who does a lot of behind the scenes stuff.
He does all the stuff for Red Shirt Pictures. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then Ryan Turek from Blumhouse came in. Mm-hmm. We're friends. Wow. We were talking. So anyway, the doors open and they said, please come in. We're like, okay. So we walk in. We walk down the hallway, and they had changed out all of the artwork to be either George's personal artwork that he had done or all movie posters of movies that he loved growing up.
Aww.
And they had images of him at Cannes, I think, with Night of the Living Dead, if I'm not mistaken. They had his personal drawings. And we went to the doors of the chapel. And the chapel opened up. And there was his casket. And above it was a screen showing Creepshow. And then on the side were all these flowers. One set of flowers was from the Misfits, so it was in the shape of the Fiends.
Oh, wow.
And there was a book there, and there was the line thing, but we were the first ones there. So the whole room was empty except for his wife, Suzanne, and his kids. And we were the first ones in there. And we signed, the book. And I'm like, I'm getting chills thinking about it because it was a really special moment.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We walked up there and Suzanne came up and I had never, at the time I had never met her. And I just kind of was like, hey, we did this shirt for George. And he's like, oh yeah. And she was like, thank you. And met her kids. And it was it was a moment, man. It was a real moment. And I know later in the day, I'm sure there was probably a lot of people that were just in line waiting. And that's, that's great. I'm hoping a lot of people came out for it. But to be in that room, basically almost alone, pretty much, like it was weird, man. I mean, it was moving and it was an incredible experience. And I'm grateful I was able to go there, but it was wild.
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine.
It's weird because we came out and Greg came out shortly after and we talked for a minute. And someone came up to him and it was like, hey man, could you sign this? And Greg's like, dude, not now.
Yeah, here? Like, come on, man.
He's like, he goes, normally I would. I totally would. Not today, man. Not today. He's like, oh yeah, no problem. And whatever. Some people don't think, But yeah, it was truly amazing. He was a great guy. And we've been grateful to work with the Garf Foundation and to work closely with Suzanne and all the great people that she has there. And to do different things that we're going to continue to do, the tribute shirt we did for George, and we've got other things in the works. And that's really been special. for sure.
No, I agree. And like I said, I think that's when I most recently reached out to you. When I had the idea for this interview, like I was like, "Hey, man, these weren't supposed to ship yet, were they?"
Oh yeah,
I had my shirts, and I'm like, "Huh, I wasn't expecting these for like a while."
we try to under promise and over deliver wherever we can.
It was phenomenal. I came home expecting like one thing. I came home expecting the They Live hat, and then there was the They Live hat, but then the two shirts, one I had gotten for Jeff and one for myself, and I'm like, huh. And I was like, I know this isn't just because I'm me. I was like, this had to be, this, I was like, there had to be some sort of error. So I had to like check. But yeah, no, I think the design absolutely did justice. I think it was a very good, all-encompassing, montage of like all his work. I think you guys did a phenomenal job. Like I was saying before, you have the best team working for you. You guys, I still consider you guys a small local business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And would that be an accurate? I mean, it's so okay. Hold on, because this kind of ties into use your words, Hefty. Okay, so you guys are fucking huge. All right, you guys, like if you look at Justin Powell, Piss Owl.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Andy, the maniacal cinephile. You look at Corey Taylor buys your shirts, dude. Yeah. Like all these famous people, man. Actually, the guy that makes my Jason masks, he was a artist that was on Fright Stuff, which I always used to get confused with you guys back in the day, just because it's so close, and I'm an idiot and words are tough. So he actually worked at a gas station around the corner from where I worked in Clifton Park. And the only reason I met him is my buddy had a second job with him. And I walk in, and he's wearing his assault on precinct, Fright-Rags shirt. Mm-hmm. And I had on a Fright-Rags shirt, and I look at him, and I was like, dude, Fright-Rags? He was like, yeah. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude. I'm like, hey, then we got to talking. He was like, yeah, I'm on this, and he couldn't be here today, but he was the one, Sam, my buddy Sam, who I wanted to come bring with you. But you guys have such a wide audience of people that wear these shirts. Mm-hmm. You have celebrities that wear your shirts. Is that like kind of, did you ever think you would get to this point?
No, I mean, when I first started, the goal, in my mind, the dream was like, oh, I'd love to do this for a living, because it's what I like to do. So, and of course, back then, my idea of doing it for a living was being able to watch horror movies all day and ship a few shirts. But obviously, it's totally different from that.
It's a little bit different.
Yeah, a little bit different. But that's just my naivete back then. But, seeing it out there, I remember I think it was the first show I did at Monster Mania, and it was the first time I'd ever set up. So it was really the first time I was in public with people, especially like-minded people, right? That I would even have a chance to see my shirts, right? And so I remember setting up, and I left the convention to go get something to eat, and I came back, and there was a line going through the lobby to get into the show, just the people waiting to, for the doors to open. And at the time, we used to do the logo on the back of our shirts.
Yeah, yes. And I love how you guys put the little quotes in there too. I think that's
this was like on the physical outside of the back.
Classy touch.
So you could actually see it from the outside. You could see, we used to print it right there. So I was walking into the convention, and every other person I saw had our logo on the back of their shirts. And I was like, whoa, like that's insane to me. And even to this day, going to a convention and seeing people in our shirts, especially ones that we haven't done for a long time, because to me, that means a lot. When you're going to a show, you're dressing the part, if you will. You're dressing like, yourself. But you got to, especially on a day like that, where you're going to see lots of people and meet celebrities and meet other friends and fans and stuff, you want to wear something that you love, right? You're not just going to throw on just anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And wanting to choose us to do that is incredible. And I've even seen it, when I've been to LA or other cities, where I'll be like, oh, that was a Fright-Rags t-shirt. Holy shit. I've even seen it in Rochester, where I'm like, oh my God, like
I made that.
And I'm like, it's a trip, man. It never gets old, or it never gets like, I never feel jaded about that. It really don't. Like, I think the day I do is the day I got to get out of this business, because
Agreed.
I can't. It's still, because here, and especially with COVID, you know, I'm in this room. This is my like office, and you know, this is where I see everything. And granted, you know, social media and stuff, I get it, you know, but there's, you can see things there. But a lot of times I feel like I'm in my own little world, or at least the world, you know, between myself and the people that work with me. And even though I see the orders come in and I can see on social media, and I do my best every time someone tags us to thank them and like it or share it or something, I really try to catch as many of those as possible. But it can
Tough to keep up with.
But to see it out in the wild, you know, it's just so cool. Like, I've gotten recognized places, which is such a trip. Like like concerts and stuff. I remember I was trying to get to, like, I don't know, it was the bathroom or something. I was making a beeline across like some area. I forgot what show it was. And someone like came, like was just walking this way, and I was kind of focused, and I see the shirt and I knew it was one of ours. I'm like, I kind of did a little quick double take. And then as I passed, we stopped, and he turned around and goes, Ben from Fright-Rags? Yeah, man, nice shirt. I was like, hey man, that's cool. And it was like locked eyes, you know. And I was at a Rob Zombie show, and we were kind of up front, and it was after Marilyn Manson had gone off, and Rob was going to go on, and so that, you know, people were going to get drinks, whatever. But I was sure. And I saw this girl like 4 or 5 rows ahead of me, and she kind of kept looking back toward me, and I'm like, someone she knows back there or something? And I'm talking to somebody, and I see for the corner of my eye someone come up and like tap me, and I looked over. She goes, "Excuse me, are you Ben from Fright-Rags?" And she was wearing one of our shirts. I'm like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Oh my God, I love your stuff." And it was like this whole thing. I was like, that is a trip. Like,
yeah, dude, you're like kind of like a big thing.
It was, but it's just weird. It's weird, and it's very flattering, and I absolutely appreciate it. But it's just such a trip.
I'm sure, yeah.
Man, I just never would have expected that. So no, like never. That wasn't even in my mind when we first started.
Well, I'll tell you, it's well deserved. Like I said, man, like, and this, you know, again, you know, I pay for all my shirts, so this isn't a sponsored anything. I just absolutely, like, if I was to, and it's funny, I've been pipping your guys' wares for years, you know, and it's one of those things where if I'm going to buy a horror movie shirt, it's literally not going to be anywhere from but from you guys, just because you and your team do a phenomenal job on everything.
Thanks,
on
man.
Everything. No, man. Thank you. I think you've definitely left an indelible mark and continue to on the horror community. You make a lot of people happy, Ben. Like, you should be very proud of yourself, man.
It means a lot to me. It really does, because I don't, you know, I'm such a fan of this stuff. So to even be in a conversation of other companies and things that work on stuff for other fans is it's amazing, because it always comes back to doing something that we love. You know, it's about the passion. And again, if I wasn't passionate about what we do, you know, like, you know, I'll just use this as a quick example. Like, you know, we just did a Twin Peaks release recently, and
yes,
fortunately we had it was a miscommunication, and there's something happened. So basically our first run and we of t-shirts of this one design that we did were completely wrong. They didn't really look bad. If you looked at it, or if anybody else who didn't really know, you'd probably be like, what's wrong with it? And I said, no, scrap them. And we now have like several hundred shirts that are sitting there that we're never going to probably ever going to sell. And we reran them because I'm like, we can't put that out that way. Obviously we screw up, we make mistakes. There's things that we do that we mess up with. I'm not saying we're perfect, but we really do truly care about what we do, and that's where it all comes from. So to, again, you know, then kind of have people that, you know, like yourself, that buy so many of these things, and I'm just,
stop it.
No, it's serious though. I don't know. I like it. It's almost too much for me, because I'm so focused on what we do and making sure that we do it the right way, or that's just the way that I want it to be done, you know, like make sure everything's taken care of, make sure people know when things are coming in, make sure we do this. But then to like see like your collection and people's, I'm like, oh my God, like it's incredible. And it's extremely humbling, but I don't even know how to like process all that. You know what I mean? Like it's overwhelming.
It's phenomenal, and that's one of the videos that I will be doing in the future. Is one is a movie walkthrough of all my collection, but the other is my Fright-Rags shirt.
Ooh, nice.
Thing.
Okay.
So I did, that's going to take a while because there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
But just to kind of finish things off, man, is there anything that you're working on that you'd like to talk about? Anything anything super exciting? Dish.
Yeah, we've got, I mean, this year is pretty crazy. I mapped out for the most part the whole year. I mean, there's always things always change. Things always change, but
sure.
I'm super excited because we're doing some new things. Like this is one thing that we're doing. This is our Silver Shamrock glass we're putting out soon.
I was looking at that earlier. I was like, where did he get that from? And I'm like, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, so that's ours. And I didn't do this on purpose, by the way, but it ended up working out that I just happened to be drinking out of this glass today. But that wasn't supposed to be a product placement for, So we're doing a couple things like that this year. As you know, we're doing the Night of the Living Dead Nanoforce and lunch.
Yes.
But next month, we've got, the Darcy figure coming out that's going to complement the Joe Bob, that ones we've done, which it's funny, people get really like, where's our Darcy figure? Like we hadn't thought of it or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's coming.
Like, why aren't you going to do Darcy? It's like, like we are, and it's been for literal months at this point. Like it's not. This is. I know you want to go like come to our honor and everything, but we got this. And she is a sweetheart. A real quick story about her, and I don't mean to completely.
No, not at all. Please, man.
We had Joe Bob. This is way before our last drive-in, right? So this is before he came back into this huge popularity, which is so well deserved. Why aren't you doing that? I see it. So we had Joe Bob come to town for a movie screening because we, again, I've been a fan of his for years, and we did Monster Vision shirt, and we worked with him on that. And I said, well, it'd be great if you came to town and did one of your famous, because he's done this before, famous intros that he does for his movies and stuff. And my brother and I worked on an actual set that we built for the theater, so it looked like a trailer. And we got an old TV and the lawn chair and stuff.
No way.
Yeah, it was actually pretty cool. And so, sort of long story short, he came up here for the weekend. He was amazing. First of all, we hung out all weekend, drinking and smoking cigars.
I heard John's an awesome guy.
It was amazing. And so that weekend, it was that Saturday, he was signing our posters that we were giving away that night. And I took a picture of it and posted on Twitter or something like, he's here, whatever. But Casey DM'd me, and she goes, oh my God, I'm so nervous. I'm meeting him for the first time next week. I love him so much. I've always loved him. I can't wait to meet him. And and then when I found out, like almost 2 years later, a couple years later, I think she might have DM'd me before it was announced. She goes, guess who's the new mail girl? I'm like, oh my God, that's incredible. And then look, it's so amazing how much not only he has come back into sort of this whole community and how that's represented this amazing mutant family, but how she has risen up with him and how those two together. And she's the ultimate nail girl, but it really truly comes from this place of fandom, and she was into it way before. You know what I mean? Like this is
I've been a big fan of hers for a while, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know. I know what you're saying. And she's she's the sweetest. So for us to be able to like do shirts of her and now this figure is so great. So yeah, this is something we've had in the works for a while now. This isn't, we weren't forgetting about Darcy, but we do have a wave of figures coming out at the end of April that I am so excited about. It's the first of two, if not maybe three waves of figures. The first three will be out at the end of April.
Okay.
The only hint I will give you is that it is the end of April is the halfway mark between,
yes.
months until a certain holiday.
Okay. Like, I'm trying to think of something stupid to say. I can't think of anything dumb. I was like, some dumb holiday. I don't know, like National Donut Day.
Exactly. It's totally National Donut Day. And so we've got the first of at least 6 that we're working on.
Okay.
The first 3 of 6 that we're working on. I don't want to give too much away right now because we're still in the.
No, that's fair, and I wouldn't ask you to spill the beans, but spill the beans on the show. But one thing I am very excited for is you have, I believe, this month. I think it's this month. You got a new line of, and it might even be this coming week. Forgive me, I'm not remembering the dates correctly, but The Thing.
So
I have the one shirt that you guys did, which I love about it because it has all the images on it, but it doesn't even say The Thing on it.
Yeah.
So unless you've seen the movie, you have no idea what that shirt is.
So that that came out pre getting the license, of course. That's why it has Kurt's face on it. But so The Thing is interesting license. So that's part of Universal, and we had it a few years ago, and we had done great with it. I mean. When we put out our first Thing collection, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I listen, that's one of my favorite movies, but at the same time, you just, sometimes you don't know, you know what I mean? You just don't know. And it just blew up, and we were so grateful, and we were doing more with it. And when we came time to renew with Universal, they're like, yeah, we don't have that anymore. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have it anymore? Like,
what do you mean you don't have it?
Like, it was there and now it's not. Like, you don't. And with rights, things sometimes revert back to studios or whatever. And I don't know the full extent of why it did happen, but I do know that they did not have it. So I was on the hunt for it, and they couldn't really give me too much information about where it could be. But I ended up finding this law firm that apparently owned the rights to it. Like, it reverted back to someone they work with or something like that. And so I contacted them, and they're like, oh yeah, and it should be a good, easy deal, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, this is awesome. My God, I can't believe it, because I really wanted to keep going with it. And then tumbleweeds, nothing. Emails and calls, and nothing, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, it's gone. It's gone. And then when it came time to renew this past time with Universal at the end of last year, I had noticed, and this was several months prior, but I had noticed, I think it was Mondo putting something out, and it was, I forgot what it was, the game or one of the things they had done, but it was a new item,
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. So I hit up, because I wasn't really going to ask about it, because I didn't think it would come back to them. Well,
yeah, but come on, like, if you see that, I'd be like, hey, how about what's going on there?
I did, and they're like, oh yeah, we got the rights back. I'm like, holy shit, yes, okay, please, add it. Yeah, I'm like, give it. So, we've got our collection coming out, which is going to feature a reprint of the Osborne design and a couple new things. And I think
hats.
We are, but not this collection. I mean, this is just to get the thing out there again, to get it back out there. But let me tell you, the 40th anniversary is next year. We've got some things in the works.
When my buddy, oh hey, look at that!
Hey.
When my buddy saw this.
Yeah.
When I wore this into work, my buddy goes, like, verbatim, he's like, holy shit, where did you get that? And do they have a Thing hat? And I was like, Fright-Rags, because why need you ask? But I'm like, no, they don't.
But we will.
But you will.
Oh, we will.
Okay.
It's definitely, it was just, again, timing of everything. It was really hard to, we just re-signed the license back in January, and we had already had a couple things that we were working on so we could get approvals on to make it quicker. But something like hats, the production time on those, because those are all
it
takes a while. And we could have done a pre-order, but approvals would have taken a while. And then by the time it's just like, we have to kind of figure out like how many pre-orders we really want to have, because that backs up our system, and Osborne Designs make me happy. Yeah, me too.
And that brings up a good, where's the Yuki figure?
Yeah, it's funny. People talk about Yuki too. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. We will continue to do Joe Bob stuff, as long as they want to keep working with us. And I love working with John and his team. And B, like, as long as people want it. I had no concept of how popular that would end up being for people. And I'm so grateful and thankful that we're able to produce this stuff. Like, and we're happy to do it, you know. And and the thing is, again, it comes back to I love the show and I love him and I love what he represents for the horror community, and
Absolutely.
it feels very positive to me. So it feels like it's just a good feeling all around, you know.
No, that's fantastic, man. Chris Lovell, another fantastically talented artist that you've done. My brother Rob has the original, and he like never wears it, like very rarely wears it. It's the original like pinhead one. You guys had Demons to some, Angels to others. That is like that is his show shirt. Like that just stays in the drawer, but he owns it. Ben, we're running out of time here, buddy. But I wanted to say thank you so much. And is there anything else you want to tell us before we get up out of here, buddy?
I mean, just thanks to everybody watching. Thanks for your support, and thanks for having me on here. I mean, really, it means a lot to me and everybody that you know works with me, that people are interested in what we do, especially these days when there are so many other companies you can go to. You know, we're not the only ones. There's so many others, and yet
not in my head.
Well, appreciate that. And listen, that's fine. It's great. It's just I'm so grateful and thankful that people still like what we do, and we're going to continue doing it as long as people dig it. So thank you.
No, thank you, man. And I want to give a big shout out to everybody in the chat, and Rob, Matt, and Jeff, and Nuff, Tuna, and everybody else I might have missed. But Ben, I can't thank you enough. And would this be something you would be interested in maybe doing a second part of at some point in the future?
Sure,
hopefully
absolutely.
I didn't scare you off too much.
No, not at all. That'd be a blast, man.
Again, when things kind of get back to normal, I would love to meet you in person. And don't know if you drink, but love to buy you beer. If you don't, love to buy you dinner.
Oh yeah, no, I'm listening. Beer, whiskey, I'm an equal opportunity.
Good man. No, I can't thank you enough. It was so cool to meet you, bro.
Yeah,
and I like that we only got to like out of the 13 questions I had for
so
you.
many other questions to get to.
No, it's okay. That's super cool because I wanted to make sure that I was over prepared and had too many questions because I knew that I was hoping there would be some people that showed up with some questions, which was really cool. Thank you so much, Ben. Everybody go buy stuff off of Fright-Rags. That's www.fright-rags.com. I want to give love to Kimmy and Tansky and your entire crew. You guys send out Christmas cards every year. Ben, you always wish me a happy birthday, dude, like a Merry Christmas. Follow these guys on Twitter, Instagram. I'll do my best to link everything in the description down below. Ben, thank you so much for your time, brother. And no, absolutely, man. And for everything you do for the horror community, you are awesome, man.
Thanks, man. Likewise.
You're all right, brother. And guys, remember, go out there and do good things because no one else is going to. If everybody did one good thing for someone else each day, this world would not be such a shitty place. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Remember, spend your money on Fright-Rags. There's a $1,400 stimulus check coming out. Spend it on, put some food in this man's belly. Look at him. He's wasting away to nothing. Talk to you guys soon.
Thanks.